So on a mildly sunny day, we start our journey from Srinagar to the areas of Dras, Batalik, Kargil to start filming this documentary, Kargil Then and Now, 25 years later.
Assalamualaikum, hello. You tower me hello. Hello. You.
Zozila. Formidable, imposing.
एक्सीडेंट हुआ है क्या?
Close to traffic for nearly 4 to 6 months. It still remains a major obstacle on the road to Ladakh. Although the Border Roads Organization or BRO now tries to open the road much earlier than it used to. Heavy snow and landslides keep the engineers busy. For some weeks between peak winter and full-fledged summer. Bulldozers placed at vulnerable points help in clearing slides and snow. We are on the road to Dras and just about to reach the Zozila Pass when we heard the news that there has been some snow slide and one bulldozer has gone under that snow slide. So the military and the Border Roads Organization people have gone ahead to check whether the road is open or not. Imagine 25 years ago when Kargil war took place, around the same time when forces were moving up from the Kashmir Valley going into the Dras area and Kargil and Batalik area, what would have been the condition of this road? I remember trucks after trucks and a huge snaking convoy making its way up the Zozila with great difficulty and of course halting all along the way. Fortunately, a quarter century ago, in the summer of 1999, Zozila had opened earlier than usual. Remembers Major General Suresh Mahanti, a young major back then. So was Zozila as broad, the road here? What do you remember?
No,
years?
nothing like this. It's fairly wide, you know. Almost more than 2 vehicles can pass through at any place as I can see it here. So it is not this wide. It was about maybe 2/3 or even little less than that wide.
Right. We are on our way to Dras to revisit together some of the areas and recall the events as seen by some of the key officers.
See, the weather was not too bad at that point of time. But like you rightly said, Zozila was a challenge.
Yes.
But fortunately for us, and the Border Road Organization had done a commendable piece of work. They had opened this pass in early May.
Right.
As against, early June or
In those days,
yes. Yeah, it used to be about 15 days, 20 days earlier they had opened this pass, which was a fantastic feat.
Correct.
And which, facilitated our induction.
Much has changed 25 years later. Roads are wider. The army has a larger presence in the area thanks to the Pakistani perfidy. Western Ladakh, essentially areas of Kargil, Dras and Batalik, were of least priority for the erstwhile Jammu and Kashmir state administration and even for the Indian military. In the India-Pakistan equation, Kargil was never a major flashpoint. This man, General Pervez Musharraf, Pakistan's army chief at that point in time, had other ideas. Surreptitiously, unknown to most people in the Pakistani establishment, Musharraf had set in motion a plan to slice away Ladakh. In the winter of late 1998, early 1999, soldiers of Pakistan's Northern Light Infantry, dressed in civilian clothes, intruded into unhailed areas across the line of control in Ladakh near Dras, Kargil and Batalik, and occupied vital but totally snowbound heights. The plan? Cut off Ladakh from rest of India. The ultimate objective? To wrest control of the Siachen Glacier by interdicting the only road that connected Ladakh to rest of India. Musharraf's plan was already rolled out when in February 1999, India's Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee took a highly symbolic bus to Lahore across the land border. His hope? A possible reconciliation with arch-enemy Pakistan. Nawaz Sharif, Vajpayee's Pakistani counterpart, was also keen to create history as the man who brought peace between the two hostile neighbors. Even as Sharif and Vajpayee were celebrating an apparent breakthrough, Pakistani soldiers had plonked themselves well inside the Indian territory. It was not until early May that year that the Indian Army realized the presence of the enemy at its doorstep. This then is the story of Kargil 1999. India's first televised war, a war that once again underlined the bravery, sacrifice and utter selflessness of the Indian soldier. General V.P. Malik was India's army chief in that year. A quarter century later, he remembers every moment of the 50-day war vividly.
When the briefing took place of the CCS on the 23rd of May in Delhi, and I was Chairman Chief of Staff Committee. By that time, both my colleagues had agreed that we should all work together.
Sure.
And so during the briefing, then I told the CCS, headed by Prime Minister Vajpayee, that I don't think that we are fighting with jihadis, we are fighting with, and therefore all three of us will have to work together and work out a military strategy.
Right.
And so he gave us an okay on that.
Okay. General Malik is insistent that there was no intelligence warning on the intrusions.
All our intelligence assessments that came from various agencies, etc., they had negated the war.
Right.
They felt, I mean, the assessments were that Pakistan was not ready to go to war at all. The other thing was that this came up only a few months after Lahore Declaration.
I was just going to say that, yes.
So the politicians, political leadership also could not understand that within 3 months of signing, taking place. So that kind of intelligence report, and I also must admit, there were certain surveillance failures along the line of control.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
we had posts which were far away from each other,
Right.
but the helicopters had not been able to spot any enemy, and for patrolling somewhere probably got neglected.
Right.
So it was a huge intelligence cum surveillance failure.
Right.
Particularly intelligence, because there was no assessment which said this thing.
Correct. I mean, you had no warning on that
No
from anyone.
warning at all.
No warning
So
at
we
all.
were now, we had to take up the situation as it was.
Right.
So I had to, once we realized that these are not jihadis, and I felt that these are now, we are fighting with Pakistan Army. So I had to take up this issue with the Prime Minister in the CCS meeting.
Correct.
And he gave some time to the chairman of the JIC, who was the deputy NSA, to review the whole situation.
Right.
So after a few days, he came back, Chairman JIC came back. He says, earlier we thought that these are 70% jihadis and 30% regular, but now we think it is the other way around. But that also I challenged. I said that, look, there is no jihadis, which has been confirmed today.
Yes.
That there were no jihadis in that area.
Correct. Intelligence or no intelligence, the Pakistani intrusions came as a big shock for the Indian Army. Its main focus that time was on counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency operations in Jammu and Kashmir. Ladakh was low on priority. From Zojila to Batalik, troop deployment was thin. Patrolling, perfunctory, and occasional. Recalls Brigadier Devinder Singh, who was commander of the 70 Brigade. Initially tasked to sanitize the highway between Zojila and Dras. The concern was about terrorist infiltration from east of Zojila towards the Kashmir Valley.
The tasking the problem was that the national highway, which portion of Dras, which came under 121 Infantry Brigade, was under very heavy fire from the Pakistani positions.
Right.
And as a result, the movement of vehicles, army, civil, anybody was very, very difficult. You had to do it only at night. You had to do it with a lot of RT suppression, etc. So that was the problem which was being posed. Which we were facing, and as a result, one was in Srinagar to find and suggest ways to how to overcome this problem.
It was not until early May that the army realized something was wrong along the line of control. A shepherd, Tashi Shering, and a couple of his friends alerted an army unit posted in Batalik that they saw some unfamiliar faces in the upper reaches of Khalubar and Kukarthang. I think we are reaching Garkon village, from where apparently some of the porters are waiting there. So we're going to talk to them. I would like you to speak to them also.
Yeah, I hope I can find out one of them.
Right. जय हिंद जय हिंद जय हिंद।
ओ हमारे ब्रिगेडियर साहब किधर गए?
वो कमांडर साहब पीछे आ रहे हैं।
हाँ जय हिंद।
वेलकम सर, आपको गर्कन विलेज में आने के बहुत बहुत मुबारक हो सर।
जय हिंद जय हिंद।
आपको बहुत बहुत मुबारक।
जय हिंद।
कमांडर साहब है।
जी सर जी सर।
हाँ कमांडर साहब ये जो पूरा बटालिक कमांडर साहब।
जय साहब जय साहब जय साहब जय साहब।
और ये सिरिंग नोरफेल, ये सिरिंग ग्रुप, हम दोनों गरकोन नाला में गया था सर। ग्रेनेडियर का थापा साहब था और ये सिग्नल वाला कैप्टन साहब था, आटी का कैप्टन साहब था, उनका साथ हम गया सर। वहाँ पर दिखाया दुनिया को, क्योंकि वो बर्फ़ है, एक तो पहाड़ी है, एक तो कलमेन भी नहीं था उस वक्त फौजों को। वहाँ दिखता भी काम था सर। हम देख रहे थे, हमको आदत थे कि यहाँ पर चलने के लिए, यहाँ पर इसी जगह में आकर सर वहाँ को बोला कि इस तरह पाकिस्तान आ गया, हमें गार्ड चाहिए। तो ये दोनों उधर यालदौर में गया था, मैं और ये शरीफ मुरुख दोनों इधर गया था सर। वहाँ जाकर हमने देख लिया, फौजियों ने थोड़ा लेट से देख लिया सर। उस वक्त हमें पता है कि अफसर लोग ने बताया इनको पहले लाठी मारना चाहिए, इस बर्फ का बीच में कहाँ से आएगा पाकिस्तान। जी सर, हाँ बोला सर, हमें डांटा भी बहुत, बड़ा मुश्किल से देख लिया सर। तब तक देख लिया एक सूबेदार साहब ने, सूबेदार साहब ने देख लिया तो सूबेदार साहब ने थापा साहब को रिपोर्ट दे दिया। वहाँ से फिर आरटी का फेर मंगाया, आरटी का फेर आया नहीं, पहले उनका फेर आया सर पाकिस्तान का। तब से हम लोग लड़ाई का ख़त्म होने तक हम चलते रहे सर, लेडीज़ लोग में चलते रहे, गांव वाले सब चलते रहे। ये लाज ले आओ या राशन ले जाओ, या यहाँ से खाना बनाकर, घरकों से खाना बनाकर जगह टॉप टॉप में पहुँचाया सर सब गाँव।
Tashi's inputs were validated days later, rather tragically. A patrol of 4 Jat battalion went missing in May. The bodies of Lieutenant Saurabh Kalia and 5 others were returned to India in late May. They were captured and tortured brutally. 14 years later, a Pakistani soldier confessed to have killed Kalia and his troops without admitting to torture.
दुश्मन का एक अटैक हमारे ऊपर 13 मई को आया। उनके 6 बंदों ने एडवांस किया जो रेकी पेट्रोल था। वो ये चाहते थे कि जिस पोस्ट के ऊपर मैं था वो उस पोस्ट के ऊपर कब्जा करना चाहते थे, क्योंकि वो सबसे बड़ी ऊंची पोस्ट थी, और उस पोस्ट पर कब्जा करके वो शहराए ले जो है उसको हमसे महफूज कराना चाहते थे। मगर अल्लाह का करना यूं हुआ कि उनके 6 बंदों ने लेफ्टिनेंट कालिया के साथ रेकी के लिए हमारी तरफ एडवांस किया। मगर हुआ यह कि वो एडवांस तो हमारे ऊपर कर रहे थे, लेकिन वो शिकार करने के लिए आए थे और खुद शिकार हो गए।
Kalia's death brought the horrors to Indian drawing rooms and the stark reality to the decision makers. Elsewhere, the Indian Army was discovering the large extent of intrusions. On 17 May, commanding officer of 18 Grenadiers, Colonel Kushal Thakur, was ordered to capture Tololing at the earliest. He had rejoined the battalion after cutting short annual leave. Till then, there was no concrete information on the exact number of Pakistani intruders. As the Grenadiers firmed up on the slopes leading to the dominant peak, they came under intense fire.
आदेश बड़ा साफ था कि तोलोलिंग के ऊपर 5 और 6 के आसपास मुजाहिदीन हैं जी, और आपने 21 को हमला शुरू कर देना है और जल्दी से जल्दी जो है तोलोलिंग को कैप्चर कर देना। करेक्ट। तो कुछ एक बातें एज ए कमांडिंग ऑफिसर हमने चाही कि एक्लामेटाइजेशन की ज़रूरत है और आर्टी स्पोर्ट क्या होगी, और लोगों के पास आप देखिए अभी भी स्नो है तो बिल्कुल चपाटी पे, तो उस टाइम भी ऐसे ही हालात थे। स्नो बूट्स वगैरह नहीं थे, आर्टिलरी बहुत कम थी, और तो मेरे को टाइम मिला 19, 20 और 21। अच्छा वो भी 21 मैंने कहा सर एक दिन बढ़ा दीजिए। अच्छा, तो इसलिए मिल गया। इसलिए 22 तारीख को मिल गया, तो 3 दिन मुझे मिला समय। अच्छा। तो बिम्बट जो आप देख ही रहे हैं मेरे दाहिने हैं यहाँ पे हमने अपना बटालियन एडम बेस बनाया, और मेजर राजीव कुमार जो मेरे एडजुटेंट भी थे, तो यहाँ पे हमने एमुनिशन की डंपिंग, लॉजिस्टिक डंपिंग और सारी हमने यहाँ पे की। और अगर आप देखते हैं वो जो ऊपर दिख रहा है सबसे ऊंचे दाहिने में, इस इलाके में 16 ग्रेनेडियर्स यहाँ पे परमानेंट थी उस टाइम। तो उनकी एक प्लाटून थी यहाँ पे, उनके 2IC थे, लेफ्टिनेंट कर्नल CB थापा। अच्छा। और इसी तरह सदर्न रिज में तकरीबन यहाँ बीच जैसे में मेजर अजीत सिंह की प्लाटून थी। क्योंकि उन्होंने भी कोशिश की पहले इसको प्रोव करने की, लेकिन दुश्मन का वो उसकी वजह से ऊपर नहीं बढ़ सके थे। तो मैंने उनके साथ भी ये लिएजन किया, मैं मेरे 2IC R&O ग्रुप सारा। और फिर मैंने देखा कि पोर्टर्स की जरूरत पड़ेगी यहाँ पे, क्योंकि सिविलियंस तकरीबन भाग चुके थे, बहुत इक्के दुक्के थे, तो पोर्टर्स नहीं थे। तो मैंने मेजर JD गुप्ता को आती बार मैंने सोनामर्ग में कुछ पोर्टर्स देखे थे। अच्छा। तो उनको लाने के लिए मैंने नीचे भेजा सोनामर्ग। तो मेजर JD गुप्ता जो है अगले जो है 51 पोर्टर्स लेके जो है वो आ गया, और उन्होंने बड़ी मदद की हमारी। उसके बाद
क्या एमुनेशन वगैरह ले गए?
एमुनेशन के लिए जो आपका लॉजिस्टिक के लिए चाहिए, क्योंकि एमुनेशन देखिए ना आप बिल्कुल खड़ी चढ़ाई है और दुश्मन ऊपर बैठा है, तो मैंने सोचा कि एमुनेशन की जो खपत होगी वो ज्यादा होगी। और फिर हुलियाल से जो था, और फिर हमने 21 को हमने आदेश दिए, और 22 को जो है हमने यहाँ से जो है हमला शुरू कर दिया। और हम वैली से आए थे, तो हमने कहा 5-6 आतंकवादी है, ये कोई बड़ी मुश्किल नहीं होनी चाहिए। और सारा ये दिख रहा था। और लेकिन जैसे जैसे हम आगे बढ़ते गए और देखते गए कि जो तादाद थी फायर की वो बढ़ती गई।
Realizing that they were up against a professional, well-trained and well-stocked enemy, Colonel Thakur asked for more time, but his seniors were in a hurry. They wanted quick results.
प्रेशर भी हायर हेडक्वार्टर से बहुत था कि क्योंकि किसी उनकी गलती नहीं थी, क्योंकि किसी को नहीं पता था भी 5-6 कितने लोग हैं। अच्छा, जो हम कह रहे थे कि नहीं यार हमें लगता बहुत ज़्यादा ट्रूप्स है, तो उसको कोई मान नहीं रहा था। लेकिन अब फौज है, मैं तो हेड्स ऑफ कहूँगा हमारे जवान, और हमारी कैजुअलिटीज कंटिन्यूसली होती गई, और ज़्यादातर कैजुअलिटी स्नाइपर से हुई।
तो वो बैठ के देख रहे थे कहाँ आ रहे हैं, मार रहे हैं।
और इस पूरी लड़ाई में जो लीडिंग प्लाटून थी, बिल्कुल लीडिंग प्लाटून, उसके साथ मैं और कर्नल विश्वनाथन हमेशा आगे थे।
Indian soldiers were falling like 9 pins. Results were hard to come by. That's when a calm leader stepped in. Thakur recalls how General Mohinder Puri understood the difficulty. As commander of 8th Mountain Division, he agreed with Thakur that another fresh battalion was needed to support the efforts already done by 18 Grenadiers.
जो 8 माउंटेन डीप था वो 1 जून से एरिया ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी आ गए थे, जनरल महेंद्र पुरी आ गए थे, वो सारा वो देख रहा था। तब उन्होंने बोला कि भाई खुशहाल ठाकुर, अब हम समझ गए कि हमको क्या करना है, तो उन्होंने पूरी प्लानिंग बनाई, पूरा उसका डिटेल्ड रैकी की, फिर एग्जीक्यूशन की। तो आप जहाँ भी हैं वहीं फर्म इन हो जाइए, हम दूसरी यूनिट लाएंगे और आप यहीं से फर्म इन यहाँ पे रहिए, फर्म बेस करिए, यहाँ पे माइंस आप लगाइए। तो हमने यहाँ पे फिर फर्म बेस किया, माइंस लगाई।
General Mohinder Puri had been given full charge of the Dras and Kargil sector just days ago. 56th Brigade was already in location. Now, 2 more of his brigades, 192 and 79, were also inducted. More artillery was rushed in. More importantly, Major General Mohinder Puri obtained an assurance from the Army Chief, General Malik, that he will not be rushed or pressured.
The Chief General Malik took me aside and he said, would you be able to take on this operation? I said, yes. I mean, that's, you don't have a choice in these things, and you shouldn't have a choice because, I mean, it's war just comes once in a lifetime. So I said, yes, of course. And but I told him very nicely, I said, sir, we would appreciate if there is no pressure on us, and the casualties are going to be high seeing the type of terrain in which we are going to operate. He was very generous and very understanding. He said, yes, go ahead. There will be no pressure, and he kept his word.
The Pakistanis had conceptualized a brilliant plan, but as General Puri says, they faltered in execution because of lack of leadership.
I think their initial plan was brilliant.
Right.
If they had succeeded, we would have not been able to recapture this area. The winters would have set in, they would have consolidated the gains, and this area north of the Indus and this part would have been lost forever.
Right.
So where they faulted was, I think, in their leadership. You know, our commanding officers, company commanders, right in front.
Right.
I mean, they had they suffered the privations with the men.
Yes.
It's not that they were sitting
behind somewhere.
Whereas the CO of this battalion was sitting in Skardu.
The NLI battalion.
NLI battalion. You know, so that difference in leadership was there.
Indian young officers and men, on the other hand, made the impossible possible. Despite the change in tasking of the division, it performed very well.
Once you cross Zoji, you see the enormity of the terrain. It's you're awestruck by the type of the terrain which is there.
Absolutely.
You know, high mountains. We were operating at 6,000. Now Dras is at about 10,000
feet. Yes.
But the operating heights would be about 15,000 to 20,000, and that's where we went.
That's right.
So a lot of change has to be there in your way of thinking, and counter-insurgency is a different ball game.
Correct.
You know, you don't know you're fighting against your own misguided brethren, so-called countrymen.
Correct.
So it's a different sort of a set of procedures which the troops are accustomed to a different fighting concept.
Right.
And they have to transform, the battalions have to transform, their battle procedures have to be reoriented, their battle drills have to be refined. So all this, you know, goes through your mind as to how are you going to approach this operation. So logistics was a big problem. To induct a division with so many battalions and, you know, artillery and your guns and ammunition and all, it was logistically quite a challenge.
Sure.
But nevertheless, slowly we had an excellent staff, the Colonel Adam, Colonel GS, outstanding guys, and they well ensured that the induction took place smoothly, without any accidents, without any problems.
Exactly.
And
because even today when you go to Zoji and when you cross Zoji,
it's
still a formidable
very
challenge.
formidable,
quite a formidable challenge to do it
25 years
ago,
back.
25 years ago when the road was narrower.
And
you know, all that
at the same time of the year,
exactly.
by and large,
exactly. And
just
I think,
a week earlier.
You were lucky, I think that time India was lucky that the pass had opened
That was
up
the
early.
biggest, you know, biggest benefit which we had, or the advantage which we had, which Pakistan never anticipated in their plans. They thought, it will be difficult for the Indian Army to send any reinforcements from the valley to this place because of Zojila Pass.
Correct.
But perhaps they didn't, they underestimated the capability of the army.
Sure.
At Kushal Thakur's request, General Puri then tasked 2 Rajrif under Lieutenant Colonel M.B. Ravindranath to complete the task of evicting the enemy from Tololing. It took a week for 2 Rajrif to make the plans, attack the objective at great human cost, and give India the first significant victory after weeks of setbacks. General Malik recalls how he finally had something to announce to the world.
Hand-to-hand fighting at the Tololing top and hump, that continued for a number of days. I would say almost from 13th of June till about 18th of June.
Right.
And when you know that your boys are fighting, involved in hand-to-hand fighting,
Yes.
I mean, that was a period I couldn't speak much.
I can imagine.
But when on the 18th that whole area was cleared, then I got my breath back.
Tololing indeed was the most formidable obstacle. 18 Grenadiers and 2 Rajrif together secured the first victory. General Puri remembers the day very clearly.
When he got Tololing on the 13th morning,
Right.
I rang him up at about 6 in the morning from Dras.
Yeah.
I said, how's it going? He said, sir, we've not been able to reach the top. So I was a bit disappointed.
Yeah.
So, though everyone's focus was on Tololing.
That's
And I said, oh God, if you can't capture it now, again, it will be a very difficult task to go and capture it.
That's right.
But by the time I reached my headquarters at about 7, I get a call from Amarwal, who was the brigade commander. He says, Tololing top has been captured.
Excellent.
And Ravindranath, he's just exploited a weakness of the enemy, and he charged with a platoon, and finally we captured this.
It was a visible outcome for the world to see, since Dras was on the highway accessible to the media. Days before the Tololing success, away from the media glare and against harder odds, 70 Infantry Brigade had also evicted well-entrenched Pakistanis from Khalubar, Kukarthang and other peaks in the Batalik Yaldol sector. Brigadier Devendra Singh was inducted into the sector without adequate resources or proper briefing.
Some intruders had come into the area of Batalik and they were detected, and 121 Infantry Brigade under its arrangements had gathered some patrols, 2 or 3 from all over its sector, and sent them to detect the intruders or to evict them. But they were fired upon heavily. They are casualties. Details were not given or discussed.
Right.
But now it seems that the intruders are in a larger strength and beyond the capability of the patrols to really evict. And therefore, we now need to deal with the situation.
Right.
Now you move straight to and take over the Batalik sector, which was really a unoccupied area.
Correct.
Of about 25 kilometers one, another about 15 kilometers towards Chorbatla. So it's almost 40 kilometers, right? So you go and take over the sector. So the first question was, right sir, but where are the troops? Because I was without any battalions.
Yeah.
Right? He says, we'll do something.
Okay.
You'll require 3-4 days to get the hang of the area.
Right.
So I said, I then deliberated with Surinder, and his battalion was there at Batalik, which is responsible for this area.
Right.
So I said, I'll build up on them, take their advice and
Right.
support, and get to know the setup well by the time my own battalion start arriving.
Right.
Initially tasked to keep the National Highway 1A open, he was eventually ordered by 3 Infantry Division, then based in Leh, to deal with the intrusions in the Batalik sector.
The task was given to me on 8th May take over this unoccupied sector, and resources will follow.
Okay.
So the only way I could proceed was to build up on the business battalion of 3 Punjab, who were earlier holding this area, and get maximum knowledge, etc., and their assistance to do the job. So I landed up on the 8th evening, spent a great amount of 4-5 hours with them at night, next morning also. And in the morning, a helicopter picked me up, and I did the recce along the river and facing northwards to the ridgelines. I couldn't get into the ridgelines because the extent of the locations of the intruders was not known. And therefore, that would have exposed the helicopter to unnecessary risks.
Little did he know how tough the job was to be. No full-fledged battalion was made available. 111 Gorkha and 12 Jacali were less than half of their strength, having ended their tenures on the Siachen Glacier. Amul Astana, as a lieutenant colonel, was the second in command of 111 GR and was headed to Pune. He got diverted to Batalik instead.
We de-inducted from Siachen Glacier in February.
Okay.
And then we were awaiting the opening of the pass. Meantime, we had returned our cold clothing, we had returned our weapons, our maps, and your medical detachment also, you know, he gets dispersed to complete his sector profile. So all these things were completed, and we were now ready.
Just in that short break to go back to Pune. I mean, to Pune.
To go to Pune, yeah. Our advance party was there, enhanced advance party, leave parties had reported there.
Okay.
So we were down to about 200 odd men.
Okay.
Kind of rear party,
Right.
Residual party in Nurla.
And how many officers?
Yeah, initially we had 4 officers.
Right.
4 officers.
Yeah, I mean the 200 men plus
4 officers. Yeah. So we had Major Rotela, Lieutenant Manoj Pandey, Lieutenant Samiran Roy, and Lieutenant Rawat, who had about 28 days of service.
And you?
And me, of course. The most important task was to arrest, contain the intrusion.
Further ingress of these.
Further ingress ko contain karo.
Okay.
Now, the area which was given, I didn't have a map because we had returned our maps, you know. So I was seeing his map. So we saw, you know, this is the road, towards Kargil road. इससे एक रिज लाइन ये जुबर की तरफ जा रहा है, एक याल्डोर नाला जा रहा है, गनासोक 5203, that another one that side. So where is the enemy? Well, it was not at that time well discerned where all is the enemy.
Right.
As the gravity of the situation dawned on Brigadier Devinder and Lieutenant Colonel Amul Asthana, they had to devise a way to evict the enemy. But very little help was available. As the brigade tried to make its way up the nalas, the enormity of the task was becoming apparent.
So the enemy was occupying this complete ridge line of 4812, Khalupar, Patnago, and they were occupying 5203. Right. But we were right along this nala, and like I said, the gap between these two ridge lines is about 3.5 kilometers, and the height is about 3,500 feet. And here, if you notice the area is quite wide. Like I said, that between the two valleys, on top to top, it's 3.5 kilometers. On the ground also, it's almost about 900 meters and there. So the battalions had enough space. I could locate them as such there, and they could find shelter behind the boulders, etc. The administration there, etc. they could do. Plus there was a water supply that is coming in there as a stream. So it became the flank. It became a flank, eastern flank, which became the flank of decision. Right. That this is the way we wanted to assault.
As they pushed forward, the going got tougher, but the Gorkhas were determined. Lieutenant Manoj Pandey's heroics were the highlight, but as Asthana points out, Batalik remained neglected in popular folklore as well as from the army.
So he was functioning as the 2IC of the battalion as a lieutenant.
Right. Okay.
And the first impossible task was to go and get Jubar, which had come up around 17th of May. So he was dispatched for Jubar.
Right.
Once he had done that, I mean, it was a very daunting task.
I'm sure.
Again, from there we got him back and he was sent to 5203, you know, a victory which everybody talks about.
Yes.
But he was the first guy to be inducted over there. And by the end of June, I had already recommended him for a Mahavir Chakra.
Oh,
He had done that much.
I see.
Despite resource constraints, the Batalik and Yaldo sectors were cleared of Pakistani intrusions quickly. And more importantly, Pakistani involvement was confirmed thanks to the first prisoner of war that the 70 Brigade managed to capture. Naik Inayat Ali of Northern Light Infantry gave full details of the Pakistani plan. A quarter century later, Brigadier Devinder and Amul Asthana's recall of the events of that summer proves that nothing is impossible for the intrepid Indian Army, even when short of resources, manpower or intelligence.
Now, Munthudalo, as is known well in the army and more so in the Air Force,
Yes.
and where the Air Force was most effective at the later stages of the battle,
Right.
is this bowl what you see in front of you.
Yes.
Right? And in the background, you can see the watershed,
Yes.
which is Pakistani occupied Kashmir.
Right.
We had occupied the Khalubar ridgeline, that is 4812, Khalubar, Padmago, and we had started rolling down the side. Our troops had come to the Munthudalo,
Right.
and then were almost now getting onto the watershed.
Right.
Right? Before they were accosted by the frontier force battalions from Rawalpindi, right? But like I said, during the bulk of the conduct of the war, known to us only by satellite imagery,
Right.
this was the area which was really the maintenance base of the intrusion in Batalik sector.
Right.
On the left was on the south was Kukarthang, on the west was the Jupper sort of a feature resting, right? On the other side and Chainanala coming, and this side, on this side was the Khalubar line.
But elsewhere, the battle was far from over. Tololing had opened up the floodgates. In the Dras sector, raw courage, meticulous planning and excellent coordination between the infantry and the artillery was delivering a hard blow to the Pakistani intruders. Lieutenant Colonel Y.K. Zoji, later Northern Army commander as a Lieutenant General, was at the helm of two famous victories as commanding officer of 13 Jammu and Kashmir Rifles. Standing at the base of point 5140, he recalls how after the induction of the battalion into the sector, under 56 Brigade, he had to first get familiar with the terrain and then join 18 Grenadiers. Zoji remembers meeting Colonel Kushal Thakur and the mayhem around him. He was told to recapture the Hum complex.
So we started climbing up at around 9:30 in the morning, and movement was very slow. We reached the top.
Okay. Tololing top.
Tololing top around 3:30 in the morning.
Oh, it took almost 6-7. Next day morning.
No, next day morning.
Next day morning. Okay.
Next day morning. So that means 15-16 hours of climbing.
Yeah, exactly.
And also continuous shelling that was going on.
Okay.
And little short, about 500 meters short of the top, Colonel Kushal Thakur, who was there on Tololing, he sent a guide to me. And he flashed a torch, and we were again suspicious. One didn't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly.
They were in the fog of war. So we also flashed a torch and we very carefully approached. And there was an NCO, I still remember his face, white beard and tired, and he had a stick in his hand. And he said, I'll take you to Colonel Kushal Thakur. It's a huge feature. It's not easy
it
to...
looks very narrow there, but must be huge.
Yeah,
exactly.
And with all that confusion that was going on, so he said, I'll follow me. But he said, the enemy has laid mines here.
Okay.
So be careful, wherever I'm putting my feet, just follow me.
Oh.
Because we had made this little track here, and if you go left or right, so I held on to his stick and just followed him at night.
Okay.
Just followed him up, and then when I reached Colonel Kushal Thakur, big pit on top in which he was sitting, and sort of we met each other, shook hands, and I sat down along with him, and just a little bit of nod and all that, in that condition at that time in the morning.
Yes.
And slowly, you know, as daylight broke, after about an hour and a half, you know, somebody handed me a mug of tea, you know, of 18 Grenadiers boy.
Right.
And as I looked around, you know, I saw about 8-9, you know, mortal remains of Jawans of 18 Grenadiers who had lost their life the same night, even in arty shelling there.
Correct.
So that was my first exposure to the Kargil war and what lay ahead for me.
Zoshi tasked 2 companies. The ultimate objective was point 5140. But before sending his troops, Zoshi wanted to be sure. So he himself spent time recceing the place, deciding to send 2 companies led by Captain Vikram Batra and Captain SS Jamwal. YK Zoshi wanted to give them a pep talk.
So after doing the reconnaissance, after observing the enemy, after making the plan, explaining to Vikram Batra and Jamwal that this is how sort of we're going to go about doing it, and they had briefed the troops and all that. I gave us pep talk to the troops. Then I was sitting down with both the youngsters and, you know, trying to pep up the morale. Because that worry always played up on my mind that these are 2 young officers who are going to lead their companies into attack, such a formidable attack. Will they be able to deliver? You know, so I was giving them a pep talk, and then on an impulse I asked both of them that what will be your success signal, you know, when you capture. So I asked Jamwal first. I said, Jimmy, once you captured, you're supposed to give me a success signal that you have done your job. And he thought for a while, and then he told me, sir, my success signal will be, oh, yeah. So I said, that's pretty funny. Why? He said, sir, I'm from Hunter's Cordon in India, and Hunter's Cordon had this slogan. So I want to carry on with that. So I said, carry on with that. Then I looked at Vikram Batra, and I said, Vikram, what will be your success signal? You know, the moment you capture, as per training and as per the procedure, you have to give me a success signel. So he came out with, you know, a very funny one at that time, which I thought, sir, I will say, Dil mange more.
I see.
I said, why? He says, sir, I'll capture this bunker, then I'll look for some more bunkers to capture. I found it very funny, but I let it pass. And you know, those words became household. The dialogue became even now
legendary. Because I think he borrowed it from that ad that was there. You know, Sachin Tendulkar and Shah Rukh Khan. World Cup was going on, cricket World Cup was going on, and they had got this ad. So perhaps that was the inspiration. But yeah, very I think spontaneous it was.
and both of them, after they had captured, they gave me the success signal. You know, early in the morning of 20th of July. 20th of June, and there was music to my ears that time.
Exactly.
The CO himself had a narrow escape. His buddy was shot by a sniper standing next to him.
Then Ranbir, like Ranbir was standing like we are standing, and he was firing the rocket launcher. And he fired one round, then he looked at me and said, "I've got a sniper, and I'm going to take him next." So I also quickly, you know, peeped. And I saw a very professional, you know, you probably SSG guy with a helmet like this and sniper, you know, like this, kind of waiting
for the right opportunity.
And I am talking to Ranbir and telling him that he has seen you, you change your position. But in that heat of the moment, you know, he was just looking to kill that guy. He told his number to load, the number 2 loaded, and he just stood up. The moment he stood up, the sniper fired and he got a bullet here.
Oh my God. And you were right here.
I'm with him.
Next
you know,
step, one step
away. And I saw him falling down like this. And that scene I can never forget to the rest of my life, actually. I saw him sort of breathing and slowly as life ebbed away from him. And we were so helpless that, you know,
you couldn't have taken him anywhere.
We couldn't have taken him anywhere. There was no choppers could have come, we couldn't have evacuated, or I saw him dying actually. And then within minutes, Jagannath, who was a couple of you know, meters on the other side, he got shot with the same sniper. 2 casualties. And then daytime attack, and the 2 companies were watching me that what is going to do next. So we had to call off that attack again.
Buoyed by the success of point 5140, Indian troops were recapturing vital positions with painstaking efforts. 13 Jackrif was told to rest and recuperate. On 30th June, the battalion was tasked again to capture point 4875.
4875 is a very dominating feature. You can see it for yourself. And this is the Pandras Ridge on the left. On the other side of this is the National Highway. and it goes down to Matayan on the other side.
Yeah, yeah.
So a person sitting on top here is not only able to, dominate by fire as well as by observation about 35-40 kilometers on the national highway.
Right up to Zojila perhaps, or even Matayan.
Not up to Zojila,
but Matayan certainly.
15 odd kilometers, Matayan definitely. And even this side, this valley, and it can see up to Dras and further beyond.
Correct.
So therefore the enemy also realized the importance of .4875, how dominating it was, and it was held very, very strongly.
Right.
The Pakistani morale, on the other hand, was down. They had fixed ropes to escape or go down back into their area. Two of YK Zoshi's young soldiers, still serving, cannot forget what happened in those weeks.
ये जो .5140 है, इसके पीछे जो सीधे कटा हुआ है दीवार की तरह, वहाँ उन्होंने रोप लगाए थे। रोप के साथ स्लैदरिंग करके नीचे डाउन हो गए थे।
तो इसका मतलब उनको भागना था अगर कोई आता है दुश्मन तो?
उनका मेन मकसद है कि उनके एक साथी को चोट लग गई है, अभी मैंने भागना है।
अच्छा।
और हमारी इंडियन आर्मी में था कि अगर हमारे किसी आदमी को इंजरी हुई है, उसका बदला लेके आऊँगा।
जाओ साहब, क्या हाल है? बहुत बढ़िया साहब। तुम्हें देखा बहुत खुशी होती है।
उस टाइम हालात तो काफ़ी ख़राब थे और यह चढ़ना भी मुश्किल था, पर हमें उस टाइम बहुत जोश था कि हमें ऑपरेशन में जब भाग लेने का सौभाग्य प्राप्त हुआ था और दुश्मन हमारी सरजमीन में आके बैठा हुआ था, इसलिए हमें जो है उस टाइम कोई डर या कोई ये नहीं था और सीधा हम ऊपर पहाड़ी के ऊपर चढ़ा और दुश्मन के ऊपर फतेह हासिल किया।
13 Jackrif won 2 Paramveer Chakras, the nation's highest gallantry awards. Havaldar Sanjay Kumar and Captain Vikram Batra posthumously made the battalion proud. 25 years later, the battalion is back in Dras.
Jain sir. Jain Abhishek, how are you?
Welcome to the battalion, sir.
Good. Nice to meet you again. आप लोग सब अपनी पलटन की कर्म भूमि में पहुंच गए हो। समझते हैं इस बात को?
So far you have heard the heroics of the infantry soldier and the valor and sacrifice at the peaks of Kargil, Dras and Batalik. But Kargil was also won by the efforts of the artillery firepower. The gunners and the infantry foot soldiers' synergy is what ultimately won the battle in the summer of 1999. After the break, we will talk about the role of artillery and the innovations that were carried out by different artillery units in various ways. Don't go away. I am Nitin Gokhale.
One of the innovations in Dras was the novel use of artillery. Major General Alok Deb was a young colonel commanding an artillery regiment in Kargil. He worked very closely with 56th Brigade in those months.
Managing the destructive power in an effective manner, otherwise it goes waste.
Yes.
So that is where...
And it's expensive.
It's expensive. So studying the map
and
seeing what the attack plans are. For this, the synergy. I remember Ravi and I, Colonel Ravindranath and I, doing the recce for the attack. He isn't here anymore. God bless his soul.
Yes.
We are doing the recce for the attack on 3 pimples and all.
Right.
So both of us are walking up. and we are looking at अच्छा तो Ravi saying sir मैं यहाँ पे जो है अपना एक RAP लगाऊंगा, यहाँ पर मैं बटालियन का CP लगाऊंगा, यहाँ पर एक cook house लगाऊंगा, and we are walking along and all that.
Right.
And I am telling him that Ravi, what is the name of this feature? Let's decide common name, common name, common name, common name. Because the worst part is if my officer is calling for fire on helmet.
Yes.
And his officer is saying कि bump पे fire करो.
Correct. Whereas the feature is same, but the names are different.
So this is that small coordination which at times doesn't hit you unless you walking together and deciding these things. Right. I think that is the biggest lesson I learned, and that is what I tell anyone who asks me, like you're asking me, that if you don't do this, then you're going to have a problem. If you do this, then you're totally in sync. अच्छा क्या हो रहा है?
The Pakistanis were also fighting hard and springing surprises once in a while. General Puri cannot forget how his own headquarters came under intense shelling from point 4875.
From Sonamarg, you come to Baltal, you cross Zujila, you cross Gumri, Moghalpura, and then you land up at Matayan, which is a bowl actually.
Right.
It's a very wide bowl.
In fact, there is a picture that we have. So now this is the bowl.
Yeah,
this is the Matayan bowl.
It's a very nice place for a headquarters to be, open ground, and
Correct.
And that's this was also the logistic area for the Corps had established this logistic area for communications and logistics.
Yes.
So when I came, I plonked the headquarters over here.
Yes.
Now this is Matayan. This is somewhere here is 0.4875.
Right.
Which, as you see, it had dominance totally over this.
Completely.
But since we surmised that they don't have artillery guns, and we were out of their small arms range, so we accepted this. It was foolish on my part, and I definitely admit it. But we realized this on the 13th of June.
Which you mentioned, yes.
Yeah, which I had mentioned, and then we had to shift to Moghalpura.
The initial setbacks meant huge loss of lives and a downcast army. But General Malik as chief and his senior team had to restore confidence. The zest and the bravery of the young, of course, helped.
These boys, second Rajrif, they were launched after our attacks, initial attacks. Tololing had failed. And by this time, 8th Mountain Div had taken over.
Right.
And Mohinder Puri asked me, he wanted little time to be prepared and all. I said, don't worry, but don't go unprepared. So they went fully prepared.
Sure.
We started inducting extra artillery and other elements into that battle zone.
Yes.
So that took a little time.
Correct.
But by that time, I was quite clear that nobody should be launching an attack without adequate preparation.
There was also another impediment. The government's decision not to allow the Indian Army to cross the line of control, which meant taking the tougher route of frontal assault. General Malik, however, clarified what the directive meant.
In our briefing, I was categorically told that you will not cross the line of control or international border.
Okay.
At the end of the briefing, that was made clear. So it became a terms of reference for us.
Right.
In the beginning, we didn't say anything, but after some time, I heard the Prime Minister speaking in the open that I have told the armed forces not to cross the line of control.
Right.
Then I had to go and tell him.
Yes.
And on one day, we were three of us, Prime Minister, Mr. Brijesh Mishra, NSA, and I, we were walking in the corridor, and I told him, I said, sir, please don't make the statement again. So he looked at me, he says, "Kyun, kya baat hai?"
Achha.
So I told him, I said, suppose we cannot undo what has happened in Kargil.
Right.
We'll try and do our best, but in case we cannot do, then I have no alternative except to cross the line of control or the border.
Yes.
And if I come to you for that, with that request, aap humko kya bolenge?
Correct.
So he kept quiet.
Okay.
But that very evening, Brijesh Mishra took an interview on one of the TV channels.
Right.
And there, during the interview, he said, not crossing the border on LOC holds good today. We don't know about tomorrow.
So that actually gave a flexibility, brought in the element of flexibility there.
And mind you, this was a very credible threat that we had posed.
Right.
Because I had moved my formations.
You had mentioned.
From the east, from central India.
Right.
And they were all positioned for the strike corps were positioned for an attack with a very short notice.
Correct. Early in the war, there was another controversy. Not deploying the Indian Air Force. It felt application of air power would escalate the conflict. Others like General Puri thought there were terrain-specific factors that prevented the Air Force from being effective.
Earlier the Air Force had reservations, which was also right, because they did not want to escalate the war to a level where, we would be having an open confrontation. So, but later on when the orders were given to them, they did a good job. Like us, they were not trained for this type of warfare. Their weapons were inadequate to tackle these sort of heights.
That's right.
But they finally, it was a big morale booster for the ground troops.
Sure.
You see your own aircraft going.
Right.
It was a big morale boost. But we had our own problems, like the terms of reference which were given, you can't cross the line of control.
Yes.
Now, if you see the terrain is going from south to north or north to south.
Yes.
Now, in case the Air Force had to be effective, they would have had to go from south to north and then cross the line of control, which was not acceptable.
That's right. Early in the battle, it didn't help matters that the Air Force lost a Mi-17 helicopter.
When these 4 of those Mi-17 aircrafts went for shooting in the bunkers on the Tololing feature, one of those Mi-17 aircrafts was targeted by a Stinger missile and unfortunately is brought down right in front of our eyes.
Later, however, the IAF joined the war effort wholeheartedly. Anupam Banerjee was a young fighter pilot. He recalls.
Because as you understand, Indian Air Force, you get trained for attacking the enemy airfield, attacking the enemy infrastructure across the border. This was a very limited operation, and we were told very clearly that we are not going to cross the line of control, and we are going to only target all those posts which were taken over by the Pakistani infiltrators in our side of the border, and we are not to cross the line of control under any circumstances. The Indian Air Force was one of the first, or rather is the first Air Force to fight at such altitude. The base altitude for most of the targets were around 5 kilometers, 5,000 meters. Now you can imagine if you have to put a dive attack, you are operating from a much higher height, and these are not regular things, because targeting a small bunker on top of a hill with a bomb is very difficult task, because you are, even if there is a little difference in your parameters, the bomb might overshoot or undershoot, and your own army is actually trying to climb those hills. So it was actually very, very difficult.
As the weeks went by, India slowly started getting a grip on the situation. It also brought in its naval power to pull its weight. D.K. Sharma, as a young lieutenant commander on one of the ships that were forward deployed in the Arabian Sea to put pressure on Pakistan, remembers.
A few ships, a few frontline warships from Visakhapatnam were moved, and they were moved from Visakhapatnam all the way across. They did an OTR in Cochin and then were deployed along with the Western Fleet, as you can see now, all across the Makran coast. Now, what was being done here? What was the aim? The aim was to choke the supply lines and the sea lanes of communications which were going towards Karachi, or the shipping which was coming out of Karachi. Another thing which was done was the missile boats, the smaller missile boats which were deployed, which normally are stationed in Bombay, which is their home port, they were forward deployed to Okha. Now this is something akin to what we did in 1971. The boats were taken there, and should the balloon go up, and if there was any chance of a war being all-out war being broken out, this was to be used for carrying out the attacks.
The war became a television spectacle too, as live visuals were being beamed in Indian homes. The government's decision to send bodies of those killed in action back home galvanized the people across the length and breadth of the country. Civilians offered to go to the battlefront. Donations were being collected. The media descended in droves. The all-round support helped keep the morale up.
Huge plus point. And I have never seen our country gelled together and supporting their armed forces as they did during that period.
Right.
Initially, when we started sending back, we took the decision that all bodies must be taken back to their villages, kith and kin.
Correct.
And most of these had to go through Delhi, because Delhi is a central point.
Yes.
And some senior officers, in fact, rang me up, and he said that, what are you doing? This will demoralize everybody. But I had taken that decision, so I didn't change that decision. And finally, I find that that became a support for us.
It did.
That became a huge support for us.
Even 25 years later, at the Dras War Memorial constructed in the aftermath of the war, civilians visit in large numbers. It is now a tourist attraction on the national highway connecting Srinagar and Leh. Many stop and admire the veterans when they meet these heroes who made the victory possible back in 1999. Looking back, many mistakes were made in the Kargil war at different levels, but what mattered at the end was India's victory. It came at a significant cost, over 540 dead, many more injured. 8th Mountain Division, the forever in operation formation, is now the permanent guardian of Western Ladakh. The LOC in this sector is fully secure now. Infrastructure has improved way beyond recognition. Batalik, Yaldor, Garkhun, Khalubar, Kukarthang, areas that were not accessible in the summer of 1999, now have roads connecting the last posts. Those who made the ultimate sacrifice will never come back, but they will forever remain in our memory. The 25th anniversary of the Kargil war is as good an occasion as any to remember the brave hearts and imbibe the right lessons from the 50-day war that took place in the summer of 1999. With Pawan, Karan and Vashisht, Nitin Gokhale for Bharat Shakti.